And welcome, everyone, to Overwatchers, Episode 1 with me, Garrett Weinzierl, and I'm very excited to podcast with you, Mr. Patrick Beja. Patrick.
Hey.
How you doing, man?
How is it going, Mr. Weinzierl? How do you pronounce your name?
You can tell it's a first episode of a podcast with a new co-host for me when this discussion happens. It's just Wine and Zerl.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, it's easy. Why didn't you say that?
That's not what I said.
All right. Hey, hello, everyone. How's it going? This is a show about, what's it about? Overwatch.
Exactly. Blizzard's new first-person shooter that we can't actually play yet. So the first question that I'm sure is popping into people's heads is, why in God's name are you doing a podcast?
Right. So basically, this is a show about a game that is not available, that we only played for a couple of days, and that is probably not going to have any information, any new information for a few months. So, Garrett, what the heck? What are you thinking? Like, this is completely ridiculous.
I know. I just pulled you into this out of the blue and said we're doing it, and there was no planning beforehand. No, man, we were pretty much, you and I, we came back from BlizzCon. You had a longer flight than I did. We both were sick, and we're just sitting there in our stupor of antihistamines and cough syrup, and we decided that we were just way too excited about this show not to do at least a, I don't know, I guess you could call it like a podcast miniseries.
Yeah, I think so. You basically tweeted as we were leaving BlizzCon a couple of days after, and you were saying, "Oh, there's no way I'm not going to do a show about Hearthstone, about Overwatch." And I saw that tweet as I was going to board my flight to Europe, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'd be up for that." And you responded, "All right, let's maybe think about it." And I was like, "Let's do it now."
Yeah, I think
you were like, but there's nothing to say, like, it's just the excitement of BlizzCon and of this game that we just wanted to talk about it, I guess. And what do you do when you want to talk about something? If you're us, you start a podcast.
You basically assume other people want to listen to you talk about something. So you record it, you throw it up in the internet, and you say, hey, all you fine folks out there, listen to us just basically do friendly water cooler talk.
Basically. And I mean, I know I'm super obsessive about making sure that when I start a new show, I have content for like regular updates for the long haul. And I'm like, I really want to have everything locked down and set up so that the thing is going to be regular. And for me, that's the way you do podcasts. And it was a real concern for when we decided we were going to start this show. And then I figured, you know what? There's really no reason that this has to be the rule. We can do whatever we want. So we can do a series of 3 episodes, 2 or 3 episodes, I don't know, we'll see how it goes, and try to gather every piece of information that we have about the game, about Overwatch, and try to make a comprehensive summary that is like a one-stop shop for people who are interested in the game. They can listen to the 3 episodes, and then we can stop for however long we don't have any other information. And when it comes back, if we're up for it, we can just start the show again, which I'm guessing we're going to be up for it. So
I have a feeling,
that's what it's going to be, right? A series of 2 or 3 episodes and summarizing all of the information. If you're interested in Overwatch, hopefully this will be helpful for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I thought we were crazy, yesterday... Curse launched an Overwatch website that pretty much has a bunch of information that we found out from BlizzCon as well. So we're not the only ones thinking that you might as well just get this wave of information started.
Yeah, I mean, we were at BlizzCon along with a few other, a few thousand people.
24,000 of our closest friends.
Yes, exactly. How many? 25 was it?
I think it's usually 24, 25, something like that.
Yeah. And it seems that, surprisingly, we're not the only ones excited about Overwatch, excited enough that we want to talk about it when there's not a lot of information out there. We played a few games, and apparently there were people who played a lot more than us. And there are people who are starting to do fan art, and there are other. So first of all, before we get into the description of the game, I really want to give huge props to the Overwatch Reddit community. The Overwatch subreddit is super filled with tons of information. There are people who played, for 8 hours straight that are doing Ask Me Anythings, AMAs. There are people doing fan art. I even found already a podcast up there. It's actually a Frog Band's fan, Matt Burns, who started Overwatch Radio, and I started listening, and he was like, "Oh yeah," so I listened to the Instance and the Angry Chicken, and I really like that, and so I figured I'm going to start my own show as well, and the show is pretty fun. So the Reddit community is super awesome. There's a lot of information that we're going to discuss that comes from there. There's also OW King, which is a website from ZAM, the guys that do Hearthhead and, of course, Wowhead and all of those. And Overpone, as you just said, is the Curse Network site, which is also filled with tons of information. And, I mean, it feels like the community is already thriving, and there was just an announcement and a tiny demo. So it's not just us, I think.
Yeah.
Very excited.
Granted, the announcement, much like a decent amount of the things at BlizzCon this year, it kind of seems like they took quite a lot of information, shoved it all into a cannon, and then just scattershotted it at your face. And things were missed, because we did a one-off StarCraft podcast, and I totally noticed as I was going through talking points, I was like, well, I missed this, I missed that, but I remember that. So I'm sure a lot of people had a very similar experience, especially if you were actually there at BlizzCon. Oh yeah. Man, my friends who could not attend, who were just like, man, I'm so jealous. But I was tweeting at that or texting them just like, hey, what actually happened? Because I'm stuck in the merch line. If you could inform me.
Yeah, I mean, at BlizzCon for. If you, dear listener, have not been to BlizzCon, it's a really crazy experience, and there's no way that you can follow everything. I mean, obviously, we were following a lot of the games, and the people who were just playing Overwatch didn't see a lot of the other things, all the panels and all of that. So there's a ton of information, and yeah, I guess there's a lot to say. So hopefully, as I was saying before, this will be a good, now that we've had time to go over everything and get most of the information that there was to get. Oh, I guess before we get into it, there's one more thing. This is the longest intro in the history of forever. But there's one more thing I want to say. To my knowledge, neither you or me are FPS experts.
Oh
right?
no!
I mean,
no,
for me,
not...
I know. I still know what I am. I think, but for you as well, right? You're not an FPS expert.
No. I've always the most hardcore thing you will ever hear me claim that I am is a tryhard. I'm not a pro at any of the games I do shows about. I try very hard to take an everyman approach to any show about a specific game that I start. So
well. Here it's going to be the case as well. And if you hear things that are not, 100% accurate, or if we're making mistakes, I think we're going to be like a lot of people that are going to come to Overwatch. We're just gamers and enthusiasts about games, and not necessarily pros in that specific genre. And so, we're just a couple of guys excited about Overwatch. So if we say... We've done our homework, so hopefully we know a lot about all of this. But if we say things that are stupid, as I'm sure is going to happen, I hope you'll be forgiving.
Yep, if I bring RTS terminology into an FPS discussion, I apologize ahead of time. And also, if you want to correct us, or if you have some suggestions of your own, feel free to email us. The email for that is mailoverwatchers@gmail.com, because everything was taken.
So just to be sure, it's mail, M-A-I-L.
Yes.
Not just, right, not the mail, M-A-L-E.
Not as in gender, as in parcel.
Because there are a lot of female Overwatchers, There are 4 out of 12 at this point.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the characters, of course. So
yes,
we'll talk about that later.
That would be really interesting if Blizzard had that statistics that only 4 girls showed up to play it that weekend.
Well, I think, just looking at the subreddit, again, at the Overwatch subreddit, there were quite a few girls who were enjoying the game as well. So.
Oh yeah, half of our team when I went to go play were my fiance Jocelyn and Kim from Doghouse.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyways,
All right.
let's talk about Overwatch. So what is this game first and foremost? It's I'm sure if you're listening to this by now, you're aware that it's a first-person shooter from Blizzard. Which
sorry, just one last thing. Or should we give a little bit of a layout what this show and the next one are going to be, or like for
sure. The first episode we were more or less thinking of doing an overview. So we're going to talk about the game overall, and then the next one or two episodes, depending on when we play. We're still ironing out the details. Are going to be covering the heroes specifically and the battlegrounds.
There you go. So yeah, Overwatch. What makes it different? Because there's a lot of comparisons, legitimate comparisons with other FPSs, and what the gameplay consists of. So that should be fun. And I interrupted you, which I vouch to never do again in my life. Please go.
How dare you? No. Yeah, so just want to talk about Overwatch overall, which is that it's a first-person shooter from Blizzard Entertainment.
Wait, overalls as in like pajamas? Or?
Did I say overalls?
Yeah, no, you said Overwatch overall, and I thought it would be fun to,
That's going to be the first expansion. TF2 has hats. They're just going to bring overalls for all the heroes. That'll be delightful. Which brings me to the first comparison everyone made immediately upon seeing Overwatch, which is Team Fortress 2. And I was kind of curious what your thoughts on that was, Patrick, because I definitely made that. The second I saw a dwarf-looking dude making a turret, I was just like, oh, it's TF2 with like the Blizzard secret sauce. I could do this.
Right. So, I mean, it is a team-based first-person shooter, and as you put in your document, there are some third-person elements. But the comparison to Team Fortress 2 is fair, not only because of that characteristic, but also of the graphical style. It's very cartoony, and to be fair, TF2 is not the only game that has that style, that art style. I think there was a Battlefield or a Medal of Honor, one of the small one, maybe even free to play. I can't remember, but one of them had that as well. There's a few games out there. But that part is completely legitimate. Now, I think there is a lot that distinguishes Overwatch from TF2, not the least of which is the Blizzard approach, which I think we're going to get into a little bit later. But in general, Blizzard, what they do is that they take. Should I disclose that I used to be a Blizzard employee? Yeah, probably
might as well mention that.
yeah. So I used to be, and I think it's still early enough in my non-Blizzard career that I should still mention it every time. So there you go. But what they do usually is that they take a type of game that they like, that the developers like, and they make it into something a lot more accessible, because often the type of game they use is a lot more niche and a little bit difficult to get into. We've seen it with RTS games, with MMOs, with card trading games, things like that. And in this case, I think what we really should be looking at is how Blizzard is going to make the cool out of an FPS come up and bubble up for everyone to enjoy. There's a lot to say about what makes Overwatch different, but I think that warrants a whole section, so we're going to get into that a little bit later. But yeah, definitely team-based shooter, very cool art style, and yeah.
Yeah, I really dig the art style, and doesn't matter if I disclose this or not. I'm a freelance artist in my day-to-day, so I will probably harp on the art multiple times before we're done with this round of shows. So you've been warned. So the other big point that I think is worth bringing up for the introduction of Overwatch is that this is the first new universe from Blizzard in 16 years. The last new universe that they brought was StarCraft back in 1998. And at risk of having yet another show with Frog Pants producer where I'm called out for being the baby of the group, I'm going to not mention where I was in my life in 1998. But
all right, let's not mention anything then, because I was already a grown man. I had a mustache and a beard. Yeah, it's been an interesting 10 years, I think, for Blizzard. The way I see it, and I talked about this on the instance a little bit as well. My take on it is that it took a really long time for the company to adapt to the juggernaut that is World of Warcraft, and which, by the way, they just announced yesterday, as we're at the time of recording, that they went up in subscribers to 10 million. So the game is still very successful. It still takes a lot of time and energy to from the company to run and make sure that things are running smoothly, which can be difficult sometimes, as proven by recent events. And I think it took a really long time for the company to grow to a size that could accommodate such a large game. And only a few years ago, and you know, they relaunched the StarCraft and Diablo franchises, which also took a lot of time. And only recently have they gotten into trying to do something else, something different. Have they gotten enough leeway to try that? And it's really exciting because think of how iconic each of those three universes that they have is to us today. You know, obviously the Warcraft universe has very memorable characters, but also StarCraft. When we saw that "My Life for Ire" outro of the StarCraft trailer,
Yeah, for the new Legacy of the Void. I mean, I got
everyone was going crazy, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I came away from BlizzCon, and I said this on another show, but I'll say it again. I remember leaving surprised that I probably was more excited for StarCraft 2 than anything else. I wasn't expecting it. I went in knowing I was going to be all jacked about Hearthstone, knowing that we were probably seeing a new IP, and I'd be excited for that. But StarCraft was like the sleeping giant for me. I was just like, I walked away like, I want Legacy of the Void now.
Yeah, so there's that. There's even, you know, Diablo, obviously, all the very iconic characters like Tyrael and Deckard Cain. Who doesn't know who Deckard Cain is? That's not a very good Deckard Cain impression.
A terrible Deckard Cain impression.
That's a terrible Deckard Cain. Yeah, maybe that's a little bit better.
You got to go.
Yeah, that was better.
You go for Christopher Nolan Bane, and then you just age it a little bit. That's all you do for Deckard Cain.
I'm a terrible Deckard Cain and Bane, by the way. But yeah, so all of these characters are super present in our you know, gamers lore as a whole. So it's very exciting to see Blizzard jumping into something different. You know, something new and something so different, because it's completely different from what they've done before. They've stayed very fantasy or science fiction, mostly fantasy, but in this case they're like near future, which is very unexpected from Blizzard.
No, it's rooted in our existing Earth, which is also new, you know, new for them. Obviously there's plenty of games out there that take place on our Earth, but it's definitely a new thing for Blizzard. All of their games have different worlds. They may exist on an Earth-like planet, but it's not called Earth. And I believe in the StarCraft lore, actually, all the Terrans are from Earth, or originally were, but Earth is just so far away, it's so many light years away, and they're just not involved. So, yeah, I was really excited to see that, and it was funny. On the way back home, as I'm sitting on the plane, I basically did a one-on-one podcast with my fiance where we're decompressing, and one of the biggest things that we came to the realization of was we were just on, you know, at ground zero for Blizzard announcing a new IP, and that feels pretty special. Like, because we've been fans for a long time. We've both been playing WoW since vanilla. And I remember when the first BlizzCon happened, we were just like, oh, we'll never make it out to one of those. And now we've been going for 4 years straight. And yeah, so as fans of the spoiler, I'm a huge Blizzard fan. So
I mean, we collectively do what, 15 million Blizzard podcasts,
something like that. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, that's also something I mentioned this on the instance as well, and I got a little bit poo-pooed. But I think even on an Overwatch podcast, it's fair to say we're still in the middle of this, and we're super excited, and we've been given a tiny sliver of what Overwatch is going to be. So it might turn out that we're getting excited for nothing, and that, well, maybe not nothing, but that the game isn't going to be as exciting as we think it is. But gosh darn it, it looked really cool. Blizzard has not really disappointed us ever, and it really seems like it's going to be a cool game. So
The most
we're just going to roll on.
the most disappointed I've ever been with Blizzard was a couple of days ago, and I'm already over it because the expansion is so damn good. So
That's true.
When I've been disappointed, I've gotten over it very quick. With
Well,
Blizzard,
they do.
so.
The thing is, well, even when you get disappointed in them, they do the right thing by their community, and their community is so important to them. And I know this from experience, like from direct experience, that even when you feel they haven't done the right thing, you can pretty much be sure that ultimately they're going to fix it. And that works for Overwatch as well, because they are not afraid to correct their mistakes, to think, yeah, this doesn't work, so we're going to get rid of it. They're not dogmatic. And for Overwatch, for all their games, it plays a role, because if there is something that really doesn't jive in the game, they're going to search for the fun until they find it. So you might not like something or one thing or another, but overall, they're really going to dig as deep as they have to dig to find the fun in every situation. We already see it in each character, which we'll come back to later.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on into more things about the game itself as a whole, without getting too specific, there seems to be a really strong emphasis on map specific objectives. Now, the maps we saw, there were only 3 present playable on the floor of BlizzCon. 2 were the same mode, a third was a different mode, and they were all modes we've seen in games. Again, I'm going to come back to Team Fortress 2 for lack of a better comparison.
Yeah.
But when Chris, it was Chris Metzen, and it was who else was up there?
Jeff Kaplan.
Jeff Kaplan, who they let him out of the dungeon that he's been locked in, I guess, for quite a few years now. When they were up there talking about it, they were really harping on the objective-based battleground. So I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of these things, and we're going to get some more creative objectives, a la Heroes of the Storm battlegrounds. Probably not too far into the release of this game.
Yeah, it wouldn't be surprising for sure. I mean, with the emphasis that they're putting on these. The team play and the way they're expressing that is, among other things, the fact that there's no deathmatch in the game. So it's really all about the objectives and the team strategy. I'd be surprised if there was just, capture and payload, which are the 2 elements we've seen. So, yeah, I would be very interested in seeing really different maps and objectives. They could really go all out on, like, as you're taking the example of Heroes of the Storm, which is a great example to take. It's essentially a MOBA. It's a game that could be that is comparable to Dota and LoL. And the thing you have to know, if you're not an expert in those games, is that in both of them, they take their heritage from the original Dota, which, by the way, was a mod that was made on Warcraft 3. So it all circles back around. But on those games, the only map you only have one map. I think it might have changed with LoL, actually.
League of Legends has a couple different maps, but Dota is still just the one map to rule them all, is what I call it.
And usually what you do is that you have one team on one corner and the other team on the opposite corner, and you have 3 lanes through which the heroes can advance, and that's it. That's the whole, and they have to get to the end of the other, the other team's base and destroy their base, and that's it. And of course there's a lot of strategy, and the strategy comes from somewhere else, from the team play and all of that, but it's really just one map. And in Heroes of the Storm, you have a lot of different types of maps and objectives. It's still always to destroy the other guy's base, but you have a lot of different gimmicks and fun mechanics that make each map very different.
Yeah.
So I would love to see the twist on the FPS genre that Overwatch can bring through different types of objectives, and how they can reinvigorate and again make this game not just about killing the other team.
Right. I think taking not having a deathmatch mode and taking away a kill counter, there is no kill counter, is a really strong move. And for me, I kind of like it, because I don't want the same FPS that's out there. I can go play Call of Duty. I can go play Halo. Those have kill counters. Those have deathmatch, and that's what I enjoy about those multiplayers. But something that's again kind of reminds me of Heroes of the Storm, because in Heroes of the Storm, yes, there is a kill counter, but they've your XP is sure to crush your whole team. It's another big change in the way a MOBA works. And I know they're not calling it a MOBA, but I refuse to add another acronym to my vocabulary.
The team brawler.
Yeah, it's a MOBA. let's just call it what it is. But yeah, I'm excited about that. And I know some of my friends who are not FPS fans, they've come into video games through games like World of Warcraft, specifically because they like the PvE aspect, or they really enjoy card games. So they've enjoyed the casual, for again, lack of, people put too much weight on words, but for lack of a better word, they enjoy the more casual aspects of Blizzard games. And I know that they're actually perking up at a first-person shooter for the first time because of what Blizzard has unveiled about Overwatch, being like, well, you always like playing a healer? Play a healer. You don't need to land those headshots from across the map with a half of a second of lag time. So it's I'm looking forward to an FPS that is hopefully has a broader appeal. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. And we'll get into this a little bit more with the gameplay discussion.
Yeah, I know. I'm terrible about getting ahead of myself. So
no. That's fine. Don't worry about it.
But let's talk a little bit about the lore, because the first thing we saw when they announced Overwatch was basically a Pixar short.
Yeah, that's essentially what it was. I mean, the two kid characters, and if you haven't seen it, if you haven't seen the Overwatch intro, first of all, what are you doing listening to this show? Just go watch this now.
Absolutely.
And second of all, it features two little kids, two brothers, and at the beginning of it, and they really look super Pixar-ish.
Oh, absolutely. And then Tracer shows up, and you're like, when does this become an anime? But with an absurdly British accent. But nonetheless, yeah, the trailer was amazing, and I remember watching it. I was just like, well, this is new. This isn't the Blizzard I know. I'm used to over-rendered orcs with every pore and bead of sweat being shown,
with spikes and skulls everywhere.
Exactly. So to take my first art trip or my first art discussion on this show, Blizzard's always had really strong art direction, and I think it shows here, because this is a really strong style and it works, and I'm impressed, and I'm happy with it, because it's such a departure from what Blizzard usually does, but it's such a strong look, and it's consistent throughout.
Oh, sorry.
No, go right ahead. It's okay.
When I first started playing Warcraft 3, I remember seeing the Night Elves show up, and I was really upset. I was thinking, wait, this is a fantasy game. Where are my elves? Why do we have to have this silly take on elves that are like purple and have weird ears that are even bigger than the regular elves? What are you doing? I remember distinctly thinking that. And when I look at it now, I couldn't see, I think elves are bland, and night elves have lore and history and even personality in the way they look. So I think there's a lot of Blizzard there, and it's true for Warcraft. It's true for all of their universes. And so again, it's really exciting to see the take that they are putting on the near future Earth setting, and the look that all of the characters have in the trailer, which is very close to the one they have in game, by the way, it's the kind of thing that at first, when I saw Tracer, the girl that you first see, the hero you first see in the trailer, I was thinking, okay, that's just a girl with weird glasses, and then it just makes sense after a while. All of it coalesces and just creates a coherent universe.
Yeah. I walked away really wanting to know more about the world, and So let's talk a little bit about the lore, because I feel like there wasn't a lot of it, and they were very vague about how we were going to get more world building or more story going on, because I walked away from the Overwatch presentation. I walked away from BlizzCon with basically assuming and under the impression that Overwatch is more or less just going to be just a multiplayer game. We're not going to have a campaign. We're not going to have a story mode or anything like that. So really, we just had. It was like Chris Metzen came out. Here's the setup, guys. Overwatch was a special task force. They defended the world in a time of chaos. Now they're disbanded. Some of them are mercenaries. That's more or less it.
Yeah. That's really completely it, and I think there's the reason they did that. I think so. First of all, yes, it seems very likely that there's just going to be the multiplayer aspect of the game and no single player. So if you're looking for single player, chances are you're going to be disappointed, because that's not what the game is. But regarding lore and story, it's not like they don't want to tell it, but they want to tell it outside of the game. They want to let the game be the game, and for elements of it to enrich your experience when you know what the lore is, but they don't want the lore to make the game heavier. However, they did, as you said, hint heavily at the fact that there will be other ways to tell the story of the game, and Chris Metzen stopped short of saying we're going to be doing, comics and animated shorts and this and that, and it seems like they have really big plans for it. But I think they really wanted for this announcement to be about the game and not about anything else. Like, Blizzard is announcing a comic, or a partnership with whoever to do an Overwatch comic, or whatever. They wanted this to be about the game, and there will be time later to announce the subsequent things, and maybe even the deals aren't worked out yet. Maybe themselves aren't sure what they're going to do. It's very possible, but it really seemed like they were going to go big on the lore aspect of the game through different media.
Yeah, and you see Chris Metzen up there talking about it. My first thought just jumps to comics, because he also does work in comics. He wrote let's be clear. Overwatch
seems like Chris Metzen's superhero trip. Like, he does comics, and in a couple of interviews, including one he gave to Scott Johnson, he kept referring to superheroes and to all of that world and how inspiring it is. I think he was itching to do a superhero thing. To create his own superhero universe. I mean, he's done his Tolkien-like universe. He's done his Star Wars-like universe. He's done, other things as well. And I think he just wanted to do that too, and it's exciting to see him do it, and especially with possibly an ambitious plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And do we want to get into is this the remnants of Titan, or isn't it? I mean, I feel like it comes up at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair question to ask, and what they said was that Titan was the long rumored and half confirmed game that Blizzard was developing was killed. That they said that game was killed a while ago, and while there are some inspiration of some elements of Titan that you can find in Overwatch, it's definitely a different game. So yeah, I mean, we don't know what Titan was, but this is not Titan. There are things that are crossing over, it seems, but it's a different thing.
All right. I mean, it's clearly not an MMO, which is what Titan was rumored to be.
I mean, Titan was rumored to be an FPS MMO, right, with a lot of things. And I think at some point Chris said Titan was trying to be 6 different things. And Overwatch is something different that's super focused, and that is what they wanted to do. So,
yeah. Okay. I think that's a good place to leave that. So you're excited about the world, more or less, is what you're getting at.
Yeah. I mean, I want to see more, I guess is fair to say. It's difficult to be super excited about the world, because really, again, we've not seen a lot of it.
Right. We have like three battlegrounds to go off of, and that's pretty much it.
Sorry?
I said we have 3 battlegrounds to go off of, which are set in very specific regions of our Earth. Obviously amped up to Blizzard 11, which It's how they do things, but
which already is kind of exciting. I mean, if you look at the different parts of the world, you'll see that they're already pretty fleshed out. When I remember especially the Hamamura map was so detailed, so beautiful, and you could see that. I think Metzen made a reference to that as well in one of the Q&As. He did make a mention that there are going to be things in the maps that will remind you of things that happened in the story, in the same way that if you played Warcraft 3 and you remember when Arthas killed his father, spoiler,
that you've had you can how many years
you can there's prescription. You can see that place and hear the whispers in the game in World of Warcraft. So he was making references to things like that in the game, and that's very exciting. And seeing the maps are how detailed and how beautiful they are makes me think there are things in this game that are going to be that are going to make us excited beyond the gameplay. There's a couple of other things I want to mention about that too. Mike Moheim, the company CEO, made a reference to harassment in video games, and in his opening statement at BlizzCon, which I think relates to another thing that Chris Metzen said a couple of times. Once in a player Q&A when he was asked the question, and once in a press Q&A when I asked him the question, actually, about female representation in the game, and he was very forthcoming about it. He was very, we want everyone to feel included. He was making a reference as well to his daughter, asking him about the Deathwing kill sequence when you see the dragon aspects come out, and they're all wearing bikinis. It's all girls wearing bikinis, and his daughter was like, "Hey, Dad, why are they all wearing the bikinis?" And he was like, "I don't know, honey. I'm sorry." And so. It doesn't have to become the focus of the game for sure, and it shouldn't be, but it's really refreshing to see that you have the four very prominent characters, which in an ensemble cast is not unheard of, I understand, but even Tracer being that the main character that they put in front of people's eyes, it really makes you think, well, what's the big deal about having female characters and not having? She's just cool. And it's not a problem if we have more of those. If we have cool characters that happen to be female, that's not a problem, right? And so let's just put a few more of those. We'll be fine. And I think this is a great example of that. So yeah, I was really, this is personal because, it's an issue that's dear to my heart, but that sort of made me happy as well. And there's a ton of other things as well. The Murloc references, for example, the kid has a Murloc, a broken arm, and he has a Murloc
if only you were
cast.
If only you were sitting in our area when we were watching the opening ceremony, because I had Tom Merritt on the right and I had my fiance on the left, Katie, and I'm constantly just doing like the little kid thing, like, "Oh, look, there's a Murloc there," and I'm just pointing at the screen, and I'm just and then I'm like, "Oh, he's playing Hearthstone on a tablet," and
yeah, exactly.
And
so there were tons of those, and also in the I think it was King's Road. The map where you had in the starting area, you had a ton of arcade video game machines, and all of them were Blizzard game based. So you had a fighting game that was, I think it was Fighters of the Storm. So you had like a little animation with two different Blizzard characters playing a fighting game, which, by the way, Blizzard, please make a fighting game next. Like in 18 years and whatever it is, 16 years, the next one you make, please make it a fighting game. I love fighting games. I'd love to have your take on it. But there were tons of those video games that you just walk around and it's just fun. You enjoy being in that world, which I think is the attention to detail for that and for so many other things. I think that's what makes Blizzard games so great. And it's the case in the other games, and it's also the case here. So I was like enchanted walking around, like my team was fighting, like dying in the map, and I was just walking around going like, "Oh, look at this game, it looks so fun."
Thanks, Patrick. You're the healer. What are you doing back there? Dude, it says Fighters of the Storm. I'm trying to play it. It's not letting me. And then you call over the Blizzard employee working the pit. Excuse me, sir, how do I play Fighters of the Storm? And he just looks at you as your teammates are dying with a very confused look. Exactly. And it's just like, we got another one, guys. Another one of these dudes that just wanders off. Totally ruining the experience for everyone.
That's what it was.
But no, I'm right there with you. And it was was it Hanamura that has like a Murloc noodle restaurant? Like,
yes,
I love all that kind of stuff. It's one of the things that got.
Maybe it was Hanamura actually that had the games. It would make sense. It's in Japan, and they still have arcade parlors there.
That's true. Well, I mean, we still have them here. They're few and far between, but yeah, they're a big thing still over there in Japan compared to most of the world. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that endeared me to World of Warcraft's world. To slow that sentence down, was all of there's a lot of pop culture references, but then also the references to their own world, like you were mentioning. If you go to Lordaeron, there's the blood stain on the floor and the whispers of Arthas, or the king's death at the hands of Arthas, and all that kind of stuff. It coalesces into something that's bigger than the game itself, and it's something I've always really enjoyed about Blizzard's products.
And again, with World of Warcraft, it was the first MMO that wasn't taking itself too seriously. Like the dances being dances from the real world, that was, I think, the first thing for a lot of people. People were looking at it and going like, oh, look, Slash dance, and he can do that. And then Slash silly, and he would make a joke. That was kind of a novel approach to MMOs that were taking themselves very seriously before WoW.
Yep. We better have taunts and whatnot in Overwatch. I'm going to put that out there. It's one of the few things I actually like about Destiny. So I would like it into a game I hopefully play more than 1 month and then never go back to. So let's talk about what makes Overwatch different. We've hit it a little bit, but let's beat it dead, shall we?
Let's. So I guess go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to hit the first point, which is the objective-based first-person shooter, which I'm excited about. And we mentioned before, and I'm going to mention again, I really hope we get wildly different battleground types, and many of them.
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, there are two heads to this monster. The first one is the very different battleground types which we've talked about already, but you could imagine really crazy things and really fun things that could create in Heroes of the Storm. It sort of creates almost a character of its own. The battleground has personality almost. And the other thing is it really makes the game not about killing the other players. There's a lot of games out there, most of the games out there, Team Fortress 2 being the almost exception, although even in Team Fortress 2, the kill count is very important, but for players, I mean. But in the other games, when you think of Call of Duty and, well, I guess Call of Duty, and even Destiny's competitive mode and Halo and CS, I guess, Counter-Strike to an extent, that kill count is so important, meaning that people end up, I can't remember who made that analogy, but I thought it's very apt. People end up playing for themselves. They end up going out trying to kill as many enemies as possible, and you get satisfaction from the game when you are one of the better, ranked players, as it relates to killed opponents and your kill death ratio. In Overwatch, there's none of that. You have a ranking, but it's heavily based on your contribution, not necessarily the kill count. And there's no kill death ratio or any of that. So to an extent, it ends up not really mattering how many other guys you've killed. That just becomes a means to an end of completing the objective of the map, and that's really, I wouldn't go as far as saying it's like super refreshing, because it's not a completely incredible idea, but it certainly influences gameplay in a major way and the way players approach gameplay in a major way.
Yeah, and it comes to the thing I really enjoy about games that are played competitively more than anything are the stories that come out of specific games. I very rarely want to tell the story about the day I went 27-1 in a game of Call of Duty, but I do want to talk about when I made a comeback from behind win in my most recent Heroes game. Because it is objective based, it's this team thing, and then you talk about what we did. You don't talk about what I did. Well, sometimes you do. I landed an awesome lunar flare with Tyrande and Heroes. I'm gonna let you know, but. When you come back from 100 skull golem beating down your door and you win the game, that's a triumph. And the same thing happens in StarCraft 2. When you watch StarCraft esports, which I think is, in my not so humble opinion, the best esport out there, that's not what we're looking at when the game's over and done. We're not oh well, he killed 800 Zerglings, so that's why he won. No, he made this tactical decision and that tactical decision, and it all coalesced into this victory, and it's this push and this pull, and that's I really like that being brought. I love what Blizzard's done with it in the MOBA genre with Heroes of the Storm by making it objective based. We get those stories, and I'm assuming we're gonna get the same thing in Overwatch. And the one casted game that they showed us, it definitely had that. It had that feel. Also, and it might be getting ahead of myself a little bit, but I was surprised how easy it was to watch their casted game. It seems like when it is objective based, that they can, as map designers and as game designers, kind of lead the action a little bit. They have a little bit more control about the pace at which this battle is going to unfold, so it makes it easier to spectate. So from an esports standards, that's what a lot of people are asking, what is the esport potential of this game? And obviously it's way too early to call, but I know I, as an esports fan, have a real issue watching first-person shooters, because I just think it's hard to spectate. Isometric games translate so much easier because you have this bird's eye view of everything. But because of the objective-based thing, it looked almost as if, and I couldn't get confirmation from anyone on this, unfortunately, but it looked as if they had fixed camera points around key objectives on the map, and they could just snap to it real fast. And because they've definitely designed the battlegrounds in a way where there isn't a ton of stuff obstructing the camera in certain locations. I was excited.
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, it especially when you look at the casted match, I think, so it's not available on YouTube per se. It was in the...
No, I think you need to have a BlizzCon ticket to be able to watch it.
Yes. So if you have a BlizzCon ticket, or a virtual you can watch the panel. I believe it's the first panel,
yes.
The Origins of Overwatch 1.
I think it was Overwatch Unveiled is the first panel.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But you'll find it midway through. There's a casted match, and it is very readable, very exciting. And at the end, it's exactly what you said happens. There's a point where they're almost one team is almost going to complete the objective, and you can see the others fighting, almost resisting, and then they one kills all the others, and they almost get it, and then they come back, and like. It is a lot more exciting than a team, a deathmatch or even team deathmatch thing.
Yeah, it's because obviously death plays a role in a shooter. You can't have a shooter without death playing a role. But to elevate the team aspect above individual, kill streaks, to me makes it for a more interesting spectator experience and a gameplay experience. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then, so the other big thing that makes it different, and we talked about the battlegrounds, is the heroes themselves, having it be so hero-based. And this is what makes, I've been comparing it more to MOBAs than I've been comparing it to TF2. I know we've made a lot of TF2 comparisons in this episode, but there is a big emphasis during their talks over the weekends on adding tons of heroes down the road. I mean, in the key art, there's more heroes than were playable on the floor of BlizzCon. We had that it looks like Raiden from Metal Gear Solid, the ninja guy. We've got a badass looking cowboy dude, and a few others that weren't actually playable but are in the key arts, and we know they're coming. But they made it seem like they were going to go the MOBA model, and there was just going to be hero after hero after hero being added to this game.
Yeah. It seems like it for sure. And again, props to the Reddit community. I've been a Reddit lurker for a few years now, and they're always amazing. In this case, they've gone through all of the different bits of art and the cinematics and everything, and tried to map each unknown hero that could be someone or that couldn't, like in the battle scenes and all of that, then they've come to as much as like 40 different heroes that we can already see. Obviously, a lot of them are uncertain or, undiscernible, but it could make sense that, at least the 15 that we've seen in the key art, it seems fair to think that they'll come out. But a lot more, at least, 30 of them are discernible somewhere in what they've already shown. And there are a lot of heroes already, but the new ones, they keep... It's really, I don't want to say easy, but I can imagine how easy it would be for them to make us excited about new heroes, because already this cast is really cool, and you just said it, like the badass cowboy and the robot ninja, and then you can have there are so many possibilities. Oh, that makes me think of so many possibilities, like Hearthstone.
Yes.
There are so many possibilities about all of this. It's easier to attach yourself to to care about a certain character, and in MOBAs and Team Fortress, they've done a great job at I guess in Team Fortress you have like Valve has done a super job at humanizing these characters with the video shorts and all of that, which is super cool. So imagine this amplified, because each hero has a story, a name, character, and like I think that brings also a lot to the game. And the comparisons to the MOBAs are fair. I know there are a few people who say, no, it's not a MOBA because you don't have an economy here and you don't have this and you don't. That's not what it's about. The comparison to the MOBAs are the hero-based dynamic, not just in-game, but also out of game, which here I think brings a lot.
Exactly. And that's what yes, there is no economy. There's no creeps. There's no distinct lanes. So yeah, it's not a traditional MOBA. But I focus just on their hero design, because all of these heroes have what we would call kits. They all have 3 abilities? Some of
something
more?
Like that. And I think that's another thing that makes Overwatch different. They have 3 or so abilities per hero. So you would have, you have your, WASD keys, and that is used to move with the mouse, obviously. The primary mouse button does shoot your guns. That's expected. The secondary mouse button very often does nothing. And then you have the shift key, that is one ability, and the E key, which is another ability. So that's, shooting, ability 1, ability 2, and then the ultimate ability, which is the Q key. I would exchange Q for shift to have the regular abilities easily accessible, and then the shift one be the ultimate, but that's just me. And then you have some heroes that have additional things, like Widowmaker will have a right mouse button ability. Hanzo will have space to climb walls and stuff like that. But basically, you need to know about 3, maybe 4 different things, and you're set. So that's very easy to learn. And it's not that it's completely different from other games, but given the fact that the heroes are so different from one another, it does make an impact. You just know, all right, this, and that, and usually the shift ability is somewhere, something about movement and things like that. So I think that really makes it more approachable and more comfortable, because if you look at even MOBAs, let's go there. It is a little bit daunting that there's not a lot more abilities, but there's a lot more happening on screen. Here, it's just really shooting and then 2 abilities and you're set. And they're accessible from the get-go. You don't have, and I want to get into that as well. There's no upgrade or customization, which I'm sure at first glance is a bad thing. But ultimately, I think it's positive because it makes you comfortable using any different hero, and you know sort of how it works as soon as you're into you've tried it for a couple of times. And then those simple controls evolve into a very complex implementation of them and a lot of strategy and mastery that takes a lot of time. But the controls themselves are super simple. I mean, before you start a game, you have maybe a minute to a minute and a half for the team that is defending to set up their defense, and the attacking team is just holed up in the starting area. And that's more than enough to get the hang of your character.
I was so thankful that we had that on the floor of BlizzCon, because I don't know if anyone here has ever demoed a brand new game on the floor of any convention. It is the worst environment to learn how to play a game. It is absolutely terrible. So I was very happy that we had that time in the beginning to jump around. Real quick, I want to touch on the no customization thing again, because I kind of had this. I had a similar reaction. I was just like, no, because once I saw that there were so many heroes, I immediately was like, my brain went off. I was like, oh, MOBA. Oh, look, they have 4 abilities each in an ultimate. Look, oh, MOBA. So I was like, well, why don't we have a choice of ultimates? Because they do that in Heroes of the Storm, and it works really well, unless you're Abathur. But apparently they're working on another one. But anyways, I came around on it really quickly when I found out that you can swap heroes on the fly.
Yeah.
And since you're not locked into one hero, I think I like no customization. If you're locked into one hero and there is a more strict leveling mechanic, I think customization's a good thing. But the fact that you can swap between all the kinds of heroes, I think it's good for, as a player, you don't need to. It makes swapping heroes that much easier to do and to play. And as someone having to play against a menagerie of possible opponents, it makes it easier to react. You see Hanzo and you're like, okay, I know exactly what his skill set is, and there's no variation. And I think you need that in a game where you can swap characters.
Yeah, you can swap characters anytime you die. Maybe you can go back to the starting area and do that as well.
I think it is only after a death.
Yeah,
but the thing that drove me nuts on the floor was that it makes you watch the kill cam before it'll let you swap the heroes. I'm like, can I just swap my heroes while this counter is going down? I know how I died. Thank you.
I think that might change in the future, but it's also very useful to watch the kill cam, especially if you're a beginner, because you understand what the hell happened.
Oh yeah.
So that might be good for an introductory experience. Maybe ultimately you can change it. And maybe the customization, we haven't spoken about the business model because they haven't talked about it either. But it seems like this would easily translate into a free-to-play game. And it would easily translate into console games because of the simple controls.
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
Curious, would you rather have it be, and I was going to go with the free-to-play too, maybe you can customize your looks at some point and buy, capes or hats or clothes. But would you prefer this to be a free-to-play game or a buy-once game?
Oh, it totally. If it's free to play, I would err on the side of free to play, but it would really depend on their model. I'm curious how it would work, because in Heroes of the Storm, I feel like it works having to buy each hero either with in-game currency or with real money, because you're locked into that hero for an entire game. If you're in a game where you can swap heroes after every death, I'm not sure the buying every hero individually works. It doesn't seem elegant. It seems kind of clunky. So I have no idea how they would monetize this thing. I think the only way you could do it is have all of the heroes available and have some type of cosmetic stuff that you can actually purchase with real money.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Hearthstone, and there is something I never think I would have said a year ago or 2 years ago, but I think there's a class of games that fit better as free-to-plays, and Dotas and Hearthstone and things like that kind of work in that kind of gameplay, because it brings in a little bit of, well, you have a huge amount of heroes, like 50, 30, 60, whatever, or 200 cards or 400 cards or whatever that is. And if you get them all by paying the price of the game, I'm not saying it isn't cool. It's just a different type of experience for you and for the people you're in front of you. So I don't know, we'll see. But I mean, I would be surprised if this wasn't a free to play. When they're saying we're going to have 50 heroes, or they didn't say that, there's 12 and they said there would be many more. But if there's 30 heroes, if you just pay once and have all of them, yeah, it could be cool. I'm not saying it wouldn't be cool, but I think there's something about me playing the game. Because I guess I should say that as well. I never spend money in free-to-play games, which is why I don't like the bad ones where you have to spend money. But I never spend money. But I work towards getting that hero, and there is a little bit of excitement going like, yes, I can do I can do this and that, and then I'll finally have that one hero I really want. And I don't know, we'll see. Maybe it won't work. I think Blizzard has proved that they can make free-to-play work, and other companies as well. So yeah, I think it could work in this case.
Have you really not spent any money in Hearthstone? I find that hard to believe.
I have spent the smallest amount of money you could spend during the beta to get the special card.
Really? You bought what is that? Two packs, I think, is what you can.
Yeah, 2 packs is what it was.
Wow, I'm impressed, sir.
Yeah,
I'm impressed. That game has its hooks in me. Worse than Magic ever did.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I also haven't really had any time to play for the past 2 or 3 months or so. Okay. But yeah, until then, I hadn't really spent any money.
It'll happen. You're going to drop that 50 on those 40 packs at some point.
At some point, I know. I'm not saying I will never spend any money. It's just that I have a tendency to think I'm not going to spend money, and I'm going to do it without spending money. And in some games cases, it worked. So.
I get kind of excited with free-to-play games that I do like, because then I can use I'm so used to traditional models, I use it as an excuse. I'm like, well, I really enjoy the game. I might as well put $40 into it and say and
then $40 turns into 80 and then 120.
That has only ever happened on Hearthstone. Only on Hearthstone.
Okay.
Heroes, I think I'm still under my like $60 cap. But we'll see.
And to be fair, if your cap is like 40-ish or 60-ish, it doesn't have to be for all eternity. If there's a game that you play a lot and that you've been playing for 6 months, a year or two, I don't think it's unreasonable to spend more than $60 or $100 on it. It's a game you're enjoying all the time. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Support the developers. It's good stuff.
And buy yourself presents.
Exactly. You deserve it. You deserve it.
I guess the last thing I wanted to touch on the what makes Overwatch different is the Blizzard touch. And again, you might say that I'm a Blizzard fan. I don't like the term fanboy because that implies bias. I'm a fan of Blizzard, but I guess I'm biased anyway, so who cares? Yeah, I think the Blizzard touch is what makes it really different, because as we've seen repeatedly, Blizzard takes a game and, as we were touching on before, they make it a niche game that is maybe a little bit difficult to get into, and they make it a lot more accessible. They remove a lot of the tedium and they bring the fun out. They expose the fun to everyone. And then there's the easy to learn and difficult to master thing, which in the notes I put that the second part is important, the difficult to master, but in truth, both parts are really important. And all of Blizzard games have that, even that, silly card game that, they put out a couple of years ago.
That's insanely easy to pick up. I would argue that I'm not sure they ever really hit that with StarCraft.
But, I think it is easy to pick up in the sense that the single player campaign is easy to get into, and the multiplayer is easy to start. The problem is everyone who's still playing is super, used to it and super pro.
The multiplayer can be a soul-crushing experience, and it's part of what I love about it. And feel free to keep it that way, Blizzard. Yeah, because it's one part of what makes it such a good esport. Because I watch way more StarCraft than I play. And I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me. It's like watching, watching an amazing concert pianist do work. But anyways,
yeah, and so I think we can trust Blizzard to recreate that experience with Overwatch as well. And if they manage to do it, then we're left with an FPS that the common man can play, or woman can play. And that's very exciting. That's super exciting. And the Blizzard FPS that everyone can play, there's definitely some good things to be had there.
I think they've hit something when my fiance Katie openly hates first-person shooters. She enjoys herself a good video game. Cannot stand FPSs. And the fact that it piqued her interest, because I remember her saying, I think I might actually want to play this. I felt like they hit something, because I know Katie, and she hates these kind of games, like with a burning passion of 1,000 suns. So
it's funny. I think there's a lot of similarities between Blizzard and Nintendo, of all companies. So I came to that conclusion because my wife, who hates video games, watched me play Mario Kart. And after a while, I was like, hey, do you want to give it a try? And she was like, maybe for 10 minutes. Okay, fine, whatever.
8 hours later.
What?
I said 8 hours later.
Yeah, well, not 8, but an hour or an hour and a half, it's really exceptional for my wife. She really doesn't enjoy games. And so what I came to think of was that Mario Kart is Nintendo's version of a racing game. And they have Nintendo versions of a lot of different kinds of games. They have Brawl, which is a fighting game. They have Mario Bros, which is a platformer. They have coming up Splatoon, which is an FPS. That's their version of an FPS. They were thinking, how can we make an FPS that's non-threatening and not, cutesy and fun for the kids? And they figured we're going to have the characters shoot paint at each other. And that works, but it's still an FPS, right? With some funky mechanics.
There's something insidious about Nintendo's brand, because you look at it and on its face value, you're just like, oh, it's for kids. And then you play it, and it's like a Pixar movie. It's kind of like, oh, yeah, it's totally for children. And then before you know it, you're a 27-year-old man crying because Pixar moved you, or you're a 27-year-old man unable to put down the Wiimote because the game is so good.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's the thing. They have their own versions of super excellent games. And I think Blizzard has a little bit of that as well. They do their version of an RTS. They do their version of a point and click, not point and click, but hack and slash, their version of an MMO. And now it's their version of an FPS. And it's definitively a Blizzard game. But it's FPS a la Blizzard. And that, to me, it feels like it brings Blizzard not closer, but the comparison with Nintendo there is very stark, because they take a genre of game and they make it their own in the same way that Nintendo does, and the results are super excellent. So yeah, there's great hopes for Overwatch. Don't disappoint us, Blizzard. I'm looking at you.
It's on you, Blizz. We're already. You've got how many years now? 20. Well, 20 of Warcraft alone, so 20 plus years of fairly stellar game design. So yeah, if this game comes out and it's not good, I mean, who else do we have to blame?
Well, I think it's 25 years of Blizzard. They're coming up on 25 years, and I know because every 5 years you work at Blizzard, you get something. So the second year you get a Stein. Blizzard Stein, which is not the prettiest thing in the world. 5 years, you get a sword, which is different each year, by the way. And I have mine over there. I got out only after I got my sword, not before.
I got my sword. I'm done.
And then
out.
Yeah, exactly. And then 10 years, you get a shield. 15 years, you get a ring, and 20 years, you get a crown, which looks like a badass mask almost of some kind. Just Google it, you'll see it's like it's amazing. Yeah, it's weird. Like, it goes in front of your face, but at the same time, it's this Lich King-y, Protoss-y thing that is super cool. And then the big question is, what are you going to get when it's 25 years? Because, it keeps getting more and more. What are they going to do? Like, are they going to do a horse? Are they going to do a castle?
I was just about to say, you're going to come home and there'll just be a horse in your driveway.
Yeah. Honey, I got my 25 years present.
Congratulations. Here's a responsibility.
Anyway, so yeah, they have a lot of history making awesome games. So don't disappoint us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this is more or less. I think it's a good place to end the first episode.
Sure.
We're going to be back. We're going to be talking about the specific heroes that were playable at BlizzCon. We're obviously not going to talk about the heroes that weren't because we don't know what they're named or what their kits are. So that would be a fool's errand. But we hope you guys enjoyed this. And again, please send feedback to mailoverwatchers@gmail.com. Again, that is MAIL, as in a parcel of mail, not the gender.
I think you should get mail, MALE, Overwatchers
just
at gmail.com, just in case.
Just
and
in
then
case.
female Overwatchers as well, just, you know.
I think that might actually be too many characters for Gmail. I'm not sure. But we're also on Twitter at OverwatchCast, which I would have loved as our Gmail, but it was taken. So curse you, whoever has that. And you can follow me on Twitter at GarrettArt with 2 R's and 2 T's. And you can follow Patrick over at NotPatrick, which I've always enjoyed your handle, sir.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think it's marketing genius. It's Patrick, but you add not. You already remember it. You can't forget it. So there you go. Not Patrick on Twitter. You can. Yep.
I was going to ask. Is there anywhere else folks can find you when you're not doing Overwatch?
See, I was reading your mind, Garrett. You and me. You and me. So yeah, FrenchSpin.com is where you can find my other shows. There's one about video games that a new episode is going to come out fairly soon. I did the pre-pilots, which included a state of the industry discussion for the first one and a BlizzCon discussion. So there's a lot of what we discussed here, as well as a bunch of other things in that second one. And the regular episodes are going to come up fairly soon, and that's at FrenchSpin.com. The show is called Pixels. There's a couple of other things there as well. You can check that out.
Awesome. Go subscribe to that. I'm so glad that you're back to the world of podcasting, and even more excited that we got to do a little project together. So
I'm super excited as well on all of those things. So thank you for having me as a co-host.
Oh.
I'm excited.
It's your fault for tweeting at me. I was like, oh, this is happening. This is happening. So you can find me and all the shows I do over at amove.tv. That's AMOVE.tv. You can find The Angry Chicken, which is a Hearthstone show I do, as well as Into the Nexus, which is a Heroes of the Storm podcast. So I like to talk me some Blizzard games. So head on over there.
Oh, I guess I should mention I do a show called The Instance as well about World of Warcraft, which you can find
I've
at
never heard
theinstance.net.
I've never heard of The Instance.
It's a little show. Scott Johnson, who's a podcaster, started a while ago, and it's doing pretty well. You should listen. It's fun.
Oh, okay. It's new? Like 2 episodes, 3?
Something like that,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Theinstance.net. Go check it out.
All right. Huge Instance fan. You can also check out my work over at nomoonart.com. That's my graphic design portfolio. Go check it out. And
by the way, every time I see No Moon Art, I sort of read in my head, I read Nom Nom Art.
Nom Nom?
Just Nom Nom.
Well, I hope that it looks so delicious you want to eat it. So go check it out. Now I need to go buy another domain. Thanks. Thanks,
sorry.
Patrick.
I'm making you spend all your money.
Awesome. Well, everyone, hope you enjoyed episode 1. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.
Bye.